welcome to the Journeyman Writer. I'm Alistair Stevens. Today's question comes to us from Alice, who writes, I've loved Jane Austen ever since I was a little girl, and I've recently been hit with inspiration for a sequel to Emma. I told my friend and writing buddy about the plan, and she said it was fine for fan fiction, but not for real writing. Is it wrong to use another author's characters to tell a new story? I really love the idea, but I don't want to do anything wrong. First up, Alice, the legal perspective. I am profoundly not a lawyer, but I can tell you that Emma is in the public domain, and you can therefore legally do with the text, the characters, the setting, and the plot of that book whatever you will. Write a sequel, write a prequel, rewrite the whole thing from the POV of Frank Churchill, print the entire book on tissue paper, fold it into the shape of a Regency heroine. You are free to do whatever you like. And you're not alone. P.D. James wrote Death Comes to Pemberley as a sequel to Pride and Prejudice, and Seth Grahame-Smith reimagined the book with Pride and Prejudice and zombies. Susan Hill wrote a sequel to Daphne du Maurier's Rebecca. Dozens of authors have written sequels and prequels and alternate takes on Sherlock Holmes, including Neil Gaiman, who managed to merge the world of Arthur Conan Doyle and the work of H.P. Lovecraft. Public domain means that these stories are a part of our shared culture, and are therefore available for use by anyone. Secondly, I want to clarify the line between, quote, fanfiction and, quote, real writing. Fanfiction, the appropriation of existing characters and worlds and stories by enthusiast writers, is real writing. It may not lead to publication, it may not lead to bestseller success, or, considering 50 Shades of Grey, it may. But fanfiction authors are exercising their creativity and their talent in a way that is profoundly meaningful, and which brings a lot of people a lot of happiness. So with that said, let's get to the heart of the matter. Should you write a sequel to a beloved classic novel? Assuming that it is your intent to publish either traditionally or independently, and assuming that you are planning on being a professional novelist for years to come, and that this is just the first step, there are a couple of things to consider. The most important, I suppose, is whether you want to write this story because it genuinely inspires you, or because you think that the Jane Austen reference will drive sales and attract readers. Judging from the tone of your question, I'm assuming that it's the former, which is just as well, because there is no shortage of less inspired material on Amazon these days, and it's going to be difficult, if not impossible, to make your voice heard over that commercial maelstrom. But if that is the case, then it's my belief that you aren't, in fact, doing anything wrong. Not legally, not morally, and not creatively, which, let's face it, is the most important of the three. You can draw inspiration from this text just as you would from a true story, from mythology, or from those narrative archetypes that we've all osmotically internalized just by being a part of the world. The important thing is that you focus on your story. You remember that it has to stand alone as a unit of narrative. It must, within the frame of your novel, deliver a complete and rewarding narrative experience to the reader. There are ways of approaching the classics from a more interpretive, more analytical perspective, but if we're sitting down to tell a story, then tell a story we must. The most challenging part of that, in this specific case, I think, might be the assumed knowledge of the reader. Many people have read Emma closely and loved it and internalized its beats. There will be some readers who have seen the movie and TV adaptations that bear the same title. Many will have seen and loved Clueless without necessarily knowing its inspiration. Many more will have read Emma years ago and have a vague, shadowy recollection. You're setting yourself a difficult task, because you have to introduce new readers into what is effectively a standalone novel at exactly the same time as you are introducing returning readers into an ongoing story. That means that it is more important than ever to start your story with the inciting incident, to begin where your story begins, and to think carefully about POV and exposition, because a traditional pickup, continuing the narrative in the same voice and presence as the Austen original, may well lose new readers. Skewing the narrative somewhat, pushing it into the POV of a different character, or beginning with a new setting or subplot might well work in your favor. So, good luck, Alice. Go follow your creativity where it leads. Tell the story you have to tell, and find the readers who are waiting for that story without even knowing it. That'll do it for today's episode of The Journeyman Writer, but I will be back on Wednesday with more. Until then, go write.